how Fugan town on a cold and stormy night, with the snow blowers roar and taillight arrows, a case not black nor white. Oh, the truth must show through snowbanks deep and dramas glow. With solo cups sound high, we plead what really happened to poor John O'Keefe. Karen, she took the stand with the world glued to the stream. The whispers flew like nor'easter winds. Was it love or a deadly scheme? Oh, the justice flow like vermin round the backyard snow, with neighbors watching cold and tight. Did you pack up wrong when you framed that night? They say the party raged indoors while John lay still in snow so wide, but some cry out this doesn't fit.
Hey guys, it's Mo with a breakdown of day 30, and we might be winding down. Tomorrow might be the last day of testimony, and then Friday might be closing arguments. So this might go to the jury, either Friday or Monday at the latest. Allegedly, it is on Bev time. Speaking of Bev time, Bev, told everyone to be there at 9 on the dot, and court didn't start till 9:17. Then, again, she is just the most lackadaisical judge I have ever seen. The amount of motion, she's like, oh, I'll figure it out later. Again, I understand that whole procrastination sort of, motivation that I love. If I don't want to do something, I love to procrastinate. But it takes more time because she never rules on anything prior to until it's right there, and then they have to go to sidebar. It's just redonkulous. Now, basically, they were supposed to have a voir dire about Dr. Rentschler and the slides and what she would allow. Now, she said that she would actually need to continue to review because she had only gotten through half of the sideshow presentation to look for things that need to be redacted or are improper or anything like that. Then Jackson was asking about the photos that Dr. Lapisoto would need to look at to kind of explain, the herniated brainstem and all of the, injuries that John basically sustained. Bev made some alterations, tried to get some blood out of there. And, for all her faults, she is trying to think of the jury's well-being, sort of, or she's just slightly tipping her finger on the scale. I don't know. But I choose to look at things in the best light for people until they prove me wrong. And she has proved me wrong, but I'm going to give her grace on this one. Now, Jackson started arguing about, issues where the Commonwealth is shifting the burden to the defense, inference comments about witnesses, and then talking about reports of other witnesses. It was mentioned that Dr. Russell wanted to see the report that Dr. Lapisoto had made, but, it was not allowed by the defense because that would be considered witness contamination. Basically, Bev ruled, so this was from yesterday's motion about denying her opinion on dog bites. She was found not qualified, even though the defense again tried to put down that she, has all these classes, all these dog bite classes, has taught, classes about all of this. Bev was basically told them no dog bites. She cannot comment about a car or anything that might be construed as biomechanical or accident reconstructioning. And basically, she couldn't talk about a dog bite, but she was able to talk about an animal bite when it came to John's arm. And as disappointing, as ridiculous as that is, I think Dr. Lapisoto was very, very good at working around this to explain things and being, in my opinion, a little bit of a better communicator, or maybe just this day I was able to receive more information. But Dr. Lapisoto, I felt, was a very good witness for the defense. She was clear to understand. She didn't talk down, and maybe it's just an apple and oranges thing, but I think Dr. Lapisoto did a great job simplifying, but not, not condescending her things. Now, Hank, on cross, basically was talking about their witness, Dr. Wolf, the neurosurgeon. And again, Dr. Lapisoto's position is that as soon as John unfortunately received this injury, he was in fact incapacitated, that the swelling and fractures and all of that were very precipitous. It happened very quickly, and unfortunately he passed away, and he would be unable to perform any sort of, voluntary, purposeful movement after he received this blow. Now, she stated that because of the, amount and gravity of the wounds and the fractures, it would have to be a medium to large force. But as she's not, a biomechanist or anything, she couldn't really go into what the force was. But using her experience, she realized that this was a larger force than just a small fall. Now, Hank decided to repeatedly use the word thrust, like if he was thrust, would it change anything? And I was just about to vomit in my mouth because he said thrust, which was gross. Now, there is still a fundamental misunderstanding that Hank has, and Dr. Lapisoto was able to correct him several times on his mispronunciation, which fed my snarky soul. But he doesn't understand that, and especially when it came to the John's body losing temperature, according to Dr. Lapisoto, he was gone in a very short time with the gravity of these injuries. And basically, then Hank asked, is there a possibility that the hard ground did this? Now, Dr. Lapisoto has said repeatedly and hasn't wavered that it was a hard surface with a ridge on it, and possibly it was granular or had some irregularities in the ridge in order to cause these things, or it could possibly be that he had his hat on. But that's what Hank tried to pull out. He also, tried to talk about, let's see, frozen ground, different things. He basically, all of his questions were inability to figure out what she said, and he had asked her just the same questions over and over. Now, basically what Dr. Lapisoto has said is that the fracture was so severe that it went all the way around the head and affected the optic area. Again, not a doctorologist, don't quite understand this. But basically what happened to John is you've got a frenum magnum, and your cerebellum at the very bottom of your skull. Unfortunately, when John got hurt, the body, when you're hurt, tries to send blood up to help you to get nutrients, to send white blood cells, all that stuff. Well, unfortunately, the brain has nowhere to go. And your cerebellum, that little brain right at the bottom, that controls all of your, breathing, heart movements, all of those things. And if that is herniated or torn, you're basically, it was a massive head injury. So that being said, we then got into, how he didn't have a shoe, if there was DNA on the car. Again, the DNA, the hair on the car, the little hair that could, I don't find that to be convincing, as John lived in the same house. Now, there was a sidebar, the jury was sent out, and Hank decided to bring up the station nightclub and an audit that made Dr. Lapisoto look, less than able, less than responsible, less than, qualified to give this information. Now, it's funny because Hank fought really hard to get out of having any of this sort of in. or he fought really hard to get this station nightclub and this audit. And Dr. Lapisoto probably has had to deal with questionings of this particular incident and the audit for years and years. Now, it turns out that Hank only looked at newspapers, and as we know, the media lies, and apparently a lot of these accusations of her not going to the station fire for 17 hours, there were no phone calls, there was a record that she'd never received phone calls to go out there. She would have if she did. And then the audit turned out to, again, be something more of a political issue where a new medical examiner came in. He didn't want to do things as thoroughly as she did. So he changed things up. And because she liked to do a thorough job, there was a backlog, and she tried to pick cases that were going to trial and things like that, but she always wanted two eyes on the autopsy. And she said it in a very eloquent and, kind of very dignified way. Now, she was the director of health and resigned in 2005 from, Rhode Island. And she even said, 12 years to work as a medical examiner. It was an honor. She opened her independent consultant firm. 100% of her work at an independent consultant firm is consulting. Yes, Hank actually asked that question. Now, went on to the scratches on the eye and the right eye cut. Now, it was elicited on direct that the little cut here and the thing on the nose could have been a resultant of a punch. But she also said, look, I can't tell you exactly. It is consistent. It looks like it could be a punch, but it could also be something else. It was a blunt, impact that split the skin. Now, that being said, there was a scratch to the nose. Karen distinctly remembers taking a piece of glass out of the nose, and there was blood coming out. As a person who's experienced a day like Karen did, not so dramatic, not so criminal, I can tell you quite clearly that my mind doesn't remember things the way they happened. I've been told by different people that certain things happened that I don't remember. Your mind, when you are in acute grief reaction, which is a great thing that Dr. Russell brought in, bless her, your mind doesn't sort of make those memories in the way that it normally does. It kind of gets stuck in the process and, kind of doesn't work out to protect you. Your brain is actually a really cool thing that protects you if, you've gone through a really terrible thing. They next went on to body temperature, that John's body temperature when he was found was 80 degrees. And basically, it was an argument between Hank and Dr. Lapisoto about how fast a body would cool down in the weather. Basically, Dr. Lapisoto's sort of diagnosis or thoughts on it was that John passed away fairly quickly that evening after he received the blow on the head. And because he was no longer alive, his blood not pumping, his muscles not shivering to maintain heat, he lost heat precipitously. And I did ask the question if John had ever independently, after the incident, breathed or had a heartbeat on his own that wasn't involved with the Lucas machine or, life resuscitation sort of machines or, basic life support machines. And I learned no. So it is very possible, according to Dr. Lapisoto, who has like a gajillion years of experience in this, that he passed away that evening very shortly after he received the blow to his head, whichever way it went. Now, I was shocked and cross that Hank didn't bring up the berm, because the berm to me seems like it would be the only thing in the front yard that would cause a straight laceration, especially on the top, and then have some granular bits on it. Now, you do have the problem that if he is immediately incapacitated, how does he get by the flagpole? But I'm sure Hank could have thought, oh, well, she knew she had hit him and she dragged him in the snow and put him by the flagpole and then proceeded to leave all the glass pieces behind because she was drunk. Sure. Well, I mean, I guess, but it just doesn't make sense. Not to mention Karen's like 92 pounds soaking wet. I don't think she'd be able to, again, a dead weight body is not easy to lift. I had to deadlift one of my daughter's friends when she fell out of a tree to get her flat onto my van to get her to go to the hospital because I didn't think her parents wanted to pay $700 for her to go into an ambulance. Now, I did make sure that she was okay to, just be taken by a regular lay person. I wouldn't have hesitated to call an ambulance if it was a real emergency. I just want to put that caveat out there. But I also know that, ambulance visits are expensive. They're hella expensive, and I didn't know what their insurance, kind of situation was. So we got a hold of the parents and they said, and her mom was a former nurse, and she said, yeah, just put her there and things like that. Anywho, the whole moral of that story was that she couldn't help me lift at all. And she was, maybe 90, 100 pounds, but it felt a lot bigger. I've lifted, 90 to 100 pounds, in the gym. That's an easy lift, or it used to be for me. But this, she was hard as heck. So even though I put on my speculation hat, I doubt that that is at all what happened. Again, that whole Karen Reed, hitting him getting by the berm and then moving his body to the lawn was a speculation. But Brennan decided to ask if the doctor knew what was under the grass and if there could have been a rock. And again, we have, had cases where unfortunately a perpetrator used a rock on a human. The Jose Ibarra case with that lovely little girl, London Riley, I believe. He used a rock, and unfortunately, there were actual depressions, irregular, that fit to the rock. Not to mention, if there was a rock, there would have been blood tissue on it, and it would fairly have been noticeable, around the scene, especially when they keep saying there was no snow under him. So if there was a bloody rock with a very straight line, wouldn't you think they'd have noticed it? That being said, that kind of concluded, his particular thing. Again, he tried to get her with some bad facts from her history, but he only took it from the media and not from real sources. So she was, I think, able to fly right through this. The only sort of misstep that she had was when she couldn't remember John's exact height and I think said 7 for some reason. The redirect from Jackson was short and sweet. It was, her looking at the x-rays and showing that, there was, contrary to popular belief, there were x-rays taken and there were no fractures on the arm, on the hand. Now, I do believe we finally got to Dr. Rentschler. Bev listed, or at the end of the day, Bev listed a bunch of slides that need to be fixed for his particular presentation before she'll let them in. So things need to be redacted and all that sort of things. Dr. Rentschler is looking great. He seems like he's ready to answer things. As always, I have been impressed by the defense's experts' abilities to really explain things in a way that makes me feel not stupid. I will tell you, Judson Welcher completely turned me, and I'm sure a bunch of the jury members, off being so smugly. That being said, we didn't get very far into Dr. Rentschler because it seemed like there was a sidebar needed. So we kind of ended the day early. Bev sent the jury home, and then she went on to list all of the slides that need to be edited or, taken out to comply with her rules. Again, Bev has shown her behind here lately. She is looking real rough. And the fact that she denied the dog bite evidence, even though Dr. La Posada had been teaching dog bite recognition classes and everything else, apparently not qualified. Now, that being said, I do think that's an appealable issue, and I expect more fireworks tomorrow as this case rounds up. It's getting spicy in here. There was a little tiff between Jackson and Hank about Hank bringing in, this sort of, oppo research, critical research from or about the Dr. Lapisato. That being said, I like the way Jackson has been talking or asking questions of Dr. Rentschler, making people aware who hired him in the first place when the defense kind of, started talking to him, all of that stuff. So I do like the way that Jackson is able to kind of pal around with the engineers. He is the perfect lawyer to do this. And Miss Little impressed me today. She was using a big girl voice. I really appreciated it. And I think I would be excited to see a trial with just Miss Little. I hope that we get to see her in the future. Keep the strong voice up. And that's about all, you guys. I am exhausted because I caught Bakeritis. I guess the Malort didn't kill all the germs, daggone it. So I'm going to wrap this up here and put it out and, maybe probably go get some rest. I hope you all had a lovely day. Thank you for sharing your time with me. As always, I appreciate you choosing me to hang out with and break down this case. I hope you enjoy these breakdowns. I will see you in the morning for Mornings with Mo, the only morning news show with Lord Chippy and all the absurdity that the internet could find. Invite a friend, invite your families, your cousins, your latest rival, and your in-laws, outlaws, and side laws. We're going to get a party up in here, Mornings with Mo. Bye, you guys.